well as we look forward to moving down a new path. Are new ways of thinking encouraged, or does history rule? You know, we've done it this way for a zillion years. This is why new set of eyes and new employees and new staff members are such a valuable asset to organizations and departments. They bring different perspectives, they bring different ideas. So, looking at history, some history is valued and we is sacred, really. History should not dictate what we do in the future as an exclusive means. Building upon history, letting go of those things that don't work or no longer serve us. What type of skills, staff, attitudes, and mindset are needed for the path forward? And then do people and positions expectations align? Here again, do we have the right people in the right positions? There's no C in paradigm, so we're going to take a break from my mnemonic of paradigm and talk about communication. And Winston Churchill said, courage is what it takes to stand up and speak. Courage is also what it takes to sit down and listen. As a leader, I must be agreeable and open to sit down with the people that I work with and surround myself with and really listen to what they have to say. And I might have to hear that I've not been that effective, that I have not given enough attention, that I have not been as focused, or they need something more from me. I have to be able to acknowledge that and say, you're correct. I see that. Here's what I can do based upon that. And so when we look at communication, one of the greatest failures in communication is thinking it has taken place. This is where we go back and check for clarification and help me understand if I was clear enough. What did you hear me say? And you have heard, and I've heard Dr. Clark talk about this before. What I hear you saying is this. Is that correct? Checking back to make sure I heard you correctly. It also might be, I hear you saying this, but I'm also sensing that you feel upset about what it is we're talking about. How effective is communication within departments, between faculty and students, between leadership and staff? Communication is so critical, but it's one of the most vulnerable aspects of what happens to us when we're faced with a major paradigm change, a major conflict, or any major situation that we have to face, because we have a tendency to pull in, try and figure out what we need to do in order to make decisions to move forward. What we have to remember is we have to open the doors. We have to walk out and say, how do we communicate? What information do I need from you? What information do you need from me so that we can work on this together? Establish multiple strategies for communication, especially in times of significant change. We say it, we write it, we make flyers, we post a newsletter, we go around and we talk to staff and talk to fellow leaders face to face. We might record a video, however we need to. Multiple channels and multiple mechanisms for communication is absolutely critical with significant change as brought about by disruption and paradigm change. Leaders must show up and they must be present. It's one thing to make rounds and say, hi, how are you? How's it going? Gee, looks like it's a stressful day. Or gee whiz, looks like it's going okay. Great to see you. Let me know if you need anything. I'm on to the next department. Show up and be present. Look around, listen, communicate, interact, watch and see what's happening, and give feedback. Being present as a leader speaks volumes to the people who look to us for direction and look to us for support. When we look at goals, in many cases, one of the biggest hurdles to goals is when people think that they cannot meet the goal or organizations think they cannot meet the goal. Another reason for us failing to reach goals is because we don't plan them effectively. looking at goal setting and goal attainment. What is the core situation that needs to be improved or addressed? I think if I open this up and asked each one of you, have you ever sat through something where you thought you had the main point in focus, only to get a little bit further down the road or get more information and say, that's not the problem at all. This is what the problem is. So really looking at and analyzing what really is the core situation that we need to address and focus on. And then based upon that, what can be realistically expected and when can it be expected? So going back to looking at resources, looking at what our processes are, based upon our organizational culture and who we have working for us and with us, what can we reasonably expect at this point? And then 2 months from now, maybe 2 weeks from now, 2 months from now, 6 months from now. Who needs to be part of the process in defining goals? I would want to pull in those frontline people who are actually doing the work. Who needs to be informed of progress towards goals? How will goal attainment be determined or revised based upon objective information? Here's where our data comes back into play. Here's where our feedback from the people actually doing the job themselves. And then looking at and remembering that the best formulated plan sometimes does not succeed in its original form. Finally, looking at measurement, you can't improve what you can't measure. So how do we do that? Process-driven measurement strategies. Based upon the process we're following, what types of measurement strategies are most effective? Is it survey? Is it looking at having conversations with people? Is it looking at data in the hospital, numbers of falls? In education, how many students passed the licensure exam? How many students did we retain? Schedule ongoing assessment about the situation. Has it changed? Has it remained the same? If it changed, what happened? What was good? What was bad about it? What new information do we have? What data supports that new information? Because that's going to drive how we revise what process we're following. And then celebrate the wins, analyze and acknowledge the losses. This last point, avoid the hunt for the guilty and the blame storming. Sat in numerous meetings. Who's at fault? Well, if it wasn't for Sally, we would have did better. Or, so-and-so who's no longer with us. This is why we're counterproductive strategies in trying to move forward. Avoid the hunt for the guilty. What is our situation? Yeah, it might be people related. Most often than not, problems are system problems. Every once in a while, they're people issues, mostly system issues. So ultimately, growth through adversity. If we can support and meet the emotional, psychological, spiritual needs of the people who are integral to our organizations and support them and nurture them so that they can be effective in their jobs, looking at our role as leaders and participants in organizations, acknowledging these are hard times. This change is not going to be easy. It's going to take a lot of work. It's going to be in stages, but we will be successful. We will grow through it, and we will come out in the end better than when we entered this situation. So in summary, paradigm changes force healthcare and academic organizations to change. Organizational culture influences the ability to respond to significant change, and leaders must be able to effectively use resources and develop individuals, adapt, delegate, and set goals effectively, measure, evaluate, and revise, and repeat. Measure, evaluate, and revise, and challenge history, and most of all, learn from the past. And with that, I want to say thank you so much for allowing me this opportunity to spend this time with you, talking about something that's so vitally important to me as a professional, as a leader, as a nurse, as an educator. And I just really appreciate your time and attention. Thank you.